Hello, Lance Carter here with tips for the new triathlete. Today I want to talk to you about reading the road when you're cycling. And when we're new to riding, a lot of times we have this tendency to look really close to in front of us, right? Maybe at our front wheel because we're nervous about riding and we want to make sure our front wheel is straight. We don't want to crash and we don't want to veer. And unfortunately, the closer we look at our front wheel, the more we zig and zag and don't keep a straight line. So if you want to have more steadiness on the bike and keep a straighter line when you're riding, then take your gaze and lift up and look down the road. That'll keep your bike going in a straighter line because that keeps you want to go. Another quick tip is your bike goes where your eyes see. And so a lot of times, you're riding down the road and you see a pothole and all you can say is, I see the pothole, I see the pothole, and boom, you hit the pothole. So if you're coming up on something like that, shift your eyes to the side of the pothole and ride around the pothole, or it could be glass or a little thing like that. But reading the road, what does that mean? So when you're out cycling, you have your gaze looking down the road, scan the road. What's going on with it? Is it starting to shift upward, and is that gradual for a quarter of a mile, and then it takes a bigger climb, and maybe you can't see the top of the climb? That's all information when you're riding because with that slight incline, you might say to yourself, okay, I need to shift to one gear easier right now. But you also know coming up, you have this big hill. And so maybe if you're in the big chain ring, you know that in a certain number of feet or quarter mile, whatever that is, you need to shift down to the small chain ring to access your easier gears. Same thing, maybe you're starting to crest that hill and you're looking down. Can you see the bottom of the hill? Are there any turns that you haven't been around that you can't see around the turn? Because if you're going around a turn and it's steeper than you're comfortable with, you may need to brake. How much do you need to brake? As you're going on downhill, how much do you need to shift into bigger gears? Another great thing is that when you're reading the road, is you're looking at maybe there's some hidden driveways as you're riding, and if you see these driveways and you can't really see and you're maybe worried something might be coming out of them, then you really want to know, are there any cars behind you? What's the traffic situation? Because if you're coming up to a road and somebody pulls out of a driveway or a stop sign, if you're aware of what's on your left and behind you, then whether or not it's safe to move out and go around that obstacle or car that's coming out of the driveway. So just practice reading the road. Just look up ahead, scan what you see. Maybe you see a dog off leash. There's all kinds of things that if you're paying attention, you can look at, and then you can process that and think, okay, well, how am I going to react here? How am I going to do my shifting? Especially for newer cyclists, what they do is they tend to not shift, and so they'll ride in the same gear either with a really high cadence, or then they'll keep in the same gear and it'll be a really low cadence. So use the road as it starts to go up. Notice that you're going to shift into your easier gears. You want to keep that cadence around 90 RPMs, and so you should have a good bike computer that will show you your cadence while you're riding. And so if you're new and you're trying to learn how to shift gears, just get your cadence at 90. And when it drops below 90, shift to an easier gear. When the cadence goes up above 90, say up to 95, then shift to a harder gear. And if you just keep that at cadence at 90, that's going to be a really great way to teach you how to shift gears, especially if you can find kind of a rolling hills course, especially if it's not too steep, but just steep enough that when you're going downhill, you need to get into that big chain ring in order to keep the 90 cadence. And then as you start to go uphill, it forces you to shift in the small chain ring, because most new cyclists and most new triathletes, they have a hard time shifting anyway, but they have a really hard time shifting the left side, which is the front rear derailleur. And so find a good rolling hill course, because that's a great way to practice that. But again, back to reading the road. The more you're out there, pay attention to it, and it'll come pretty quickly to you. All right. Any questions, send them in the comments. Thanks.